Hey, I'm Pops. And okay, is it really, really nostalgic to pick this film? Yes, it is. It takes me back. 1980. So the film is called Miracle. It's from 2004. By the way, I didn't realize until I'd picked the film, watched the film, had a few notes, and realized, oh man, Gavin O'Connor directed this. We just did The Accountant a few weeks ago. He directed this film as well. He hasn't really directed very many. So I was really shocked that I kind of overlooked that coincidence because I was trying to really go for more diversity than that. But reality is, it's the anniversary of the Miracle on Ice, February 20th. 2004 is when the film came out. So it's almost 20 years ago the film came out. Of course, this moment in sports history is one of the most famous of all time, right? And I remember watching. So again, as a kid, I remember very specific like sports things in certain ways, like certain type of Super Bowl moments like that. But the Miracle on Ice, I was 9 years old. We're watching on TV, and it was just this very strange patriotic thing that I was really kind of too young to totally understand. I didn't obviously understand the geo politics at the time. But then now, after watching the film, and I've done a lot of research and really enjoyed kind of dive deep, and I really enjoy rewatching this film probably at least once a year. I don't always make it in time for this anniversary, and now it's kind of like become a thing. So when I was watching it over the weekend, it was really no surprise. Mrs. Pop's looking over my shoulder like, "Of course you are," kind of thing, right? The film really settles. This is Herb Brooks' film, right? This is literally Kurt Russell's film, right? I know there's other actors that really are really great. I think Gavin O'Connor did a great job. All the special consultants that they used to make sure they had certain type of plays and certain type of scenes, certain things reenacted, I think is really, really amazing, right? So Herb Brooks is hired to say, listen, we got to find a way. Can the U.S. be competitive? Can the U.S. get in there, hold their own against the Soviet team? The Soviets are essentially professionals, right? And you have all of these young amateurs who at the beginning are brought in. And what is really great with how the film does it was what they do is, who do you play for? And in the beginning, it's always about university. It'll be like University of Minnesota. It'll be Boston. It'll be but when you get that breakthrough and they realize they're playing for America, there's a certain grasp of we're playing for something so much bigger than ourselves. It's not about me. It's not about us, right? Craig Patrick is played by Noah Emmerich, and he is fantastic. Of course, you may know him from The Americans. He was on The Americans, and actually, Gavin O'Connor did the pilot of Americans, so I can see that Noah was brought in, and Noah's fantastic. The cast is just really very underrated and pulling all of this off because obviously most of the attention is these players and the performance and the execution. Obviously, Eddie Cahill is Jim Craig, this goaltender, just literally standing on his head. Truly amazing performance is really brought to life and really sort of like, really captured here. And I think that's great. Patty Clarkson, Patricia Clarkson plays Herb's wife, Patty. And she's just an amazing actress, man. She's been in all sorts of things. Just a great, great actress. Really love her role as well. And you have you have the different stages of the film. There's really not a three chapter type thing. It's kind of like in chunks, and the lead up, the picking of the players, the practice, these brutal conditioning and programming that they do with like the late night thing, and then the introduction of like, okay, these are the certain players that are going to make it, like the Coneheads. And then you of course run into, well, we need to bring in this other superstar scorer at the last minute, so he hasn't gone through this rigorous training and the family atmosphere as much as these other guys are. Will they even consider allowing him in? Will they even let him in? That kind of thing, right? And then of course they have to cut loose a player that you become attached to, right? So they're going to cut loose somebody, and it's really rough, right? And then when you get to the last phase, when they do play the Soviets right before they get their butts handed to them, like 10-3, right? And then when you get into the Olympics, they don't particularly start off super strong, obviously, right? And then you have the injury to McClanahan. And then when you get to the final medal round, now the game that really mattered was the first medal round. So even when they win that, they still have to play the gold medal game. So, but let's face it, it was this one game, right? Because they had to go on to beat Finland. But the Soviet game, the way they had set things up without, I mean, I know they're vilified and I know they're stereotyped and they're caricatured with how they're being presented and that kind of thing. But so much of it translates just incredibly well in the film. There was such a personal love of capturing this moment. And this is something about cinema that I feel like I just miss so much. And I know we talk about our IPs, like more like pop culture stuff, genre stuff, whether it be, the way we feel about comic book stuff or we feel about science fiction or things that are based out of novels. And this was a sports movie, but it was more importantly, it was a sports moment that was also significant on a grander scale. And the way they used, real audio from the game with Keith Jackson calling the game, I think there's just a lot of moments that are so good. And again, it really hinges on this sort of like almost cliche caricature of how Herb was. And Kurt Russell comes to life in this. There's so many moments that's just him reacting, his emotions, those kinds of things. And I know that it's not totally accurate. There are a lot of things that were added and tweaked or whatever, but the essence of everything is really, really there. It was acknowledged, obviously, for being, the sports environment loved the film. Other people who enjoy the patriotism and the positive of the film. It's been recognized in those kinds of ways. But for me, it's a way of also just, again, it's Throwback Thursday for a reason, right? It's going back to good content, good film, good filmmaking, good stories, and things that sort of like resonate and matter for us. And I think that's what's been missing in a lot of circles for a lot of films. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that. That's where I'm coming from. I'd love to hear from you guys about not only this film, but also this moment, this sports moment, because we don't really have a lot of those that we can kind of wrap our head around sometimes. I love your thoughts on that. So anyway, I'm Pops. Hope you enjoy this film. Hopefully you go check it out if you've never seen it. I think it's just one of those underrated films that, this is not the greatest film of all time. I'm not even sure it's in my top 10 sports films of all time because there are so many other films in other, baseball, basketball, or a couple, football has. So there's different ones, but this one, it's definitely just an underrated film and really a great moment to capture. So I'd love to hear from you guys as well. Thanks.